So the sort of German offshoot of Extinction Rebellion, Letzte Generation, have started this week vandalising Christmas trees all across the country in Germany. In cities, in public spaces across Germany, they have been spray painting Christmas trees in that distinctive, as we're used to in the UK, Just Stop Oil orange. And they say that they're doing this to sort of bring people's awareness away from the festivities and back to the fact that we are on the brink of heat death, supposedly. This is also the same group that last year managed to cut the top off of Berlin's very famous 15-metre high Christmas tree. They sawed the top off the Christmas tree. And Just Stop Oil in the UK have also promised that they're going to start taking similar action. So, Dennis, what do you make of this? What is it about Christmas that really gets these people so fired up?
Merry Christmas. Yeah. Just Stop Oil. I mean, they're just so joyless, this lot, sometimes, aren't they? There is, I'm afraid, a stream of green politics that is rather doomsday cultish, that is rather sanctimonious, and is absolutely determined to stamp all over anyone experiencing anything approaching joy. And it's so heavy-handed, and it's so, your betters telling you what's good for you. And the comedy is only heightened by the fact they've all got Downton Abbey-style really posh names, Chiara and Tristan descending from their manor to tell you, don't you dare enjoy Christmas. And look, I'm not saying there aren't genuine environmental concerns here and there, but I find the joylessness of this movement and the upper bourgeois middle-class mechanisms of this movement really irritating. Going into museums and ensuring that artworks which are there to edify, to lift the spirits, which are open to the working classes to go and see for free, making sure that the joy you can experience from art is a no-go because Chiara and Tristan are wagging their fingers at you, doing the same now for Christmas. I find their choice of targets instructive, joyless, and about as much fun as a doomsday cult, which is sort of what they are. They're morphing into, in my personal opinion. Not I should say I'm not speaking on behalf of the organisation. That's just Kavanagh's view of it. Can I also add, by the way, I've always regarded green politics as the progenitor of gender, and I find them very, very interesting because there's this sanctimony, this joylessness. My enemy is not just incorrect, they are morally wrong. I am a hero and I am on a crusade. One maps onto the other perfectly. It's why all the green parties go along with gender. It's got the same rhythm as a philosophy.
No, completely. And it seems to attract a number of the same people as well, You can always imagine them on sort of gender ideology demonstration one day and then gluing themselves to something in the name of the climate the next day. And in both cases, they're not really sending their best often. But yes, it's the puritanical aspect of it, which is so striking. It does feel like chopping off the tops of Christmas trees and spraying them with orange paint because people aren't paying enough attention to the serious issues as far as they're concerned. It is the perfect embodiment of that H.L. Mencken quote about Puritans being gripped by the fear that someone somewhere might be enjoying themselves.
That's right.
It's a perfect example of that. And I think there's a reason why green politics often takes on this very puritanical form, why it has been targeting people's leisure activities, whether it's the snooker or whether it's the Christmas market. You've written on Spike this week, Lauren, about the strange way in which every year now we seem to have this kind of spate of articles saying things like Christmas is, a kind of is the worst thing for the environment. The Christmas markets are killing the planet. All the glitter's going to get into the water supply. All of these things, just one after another. And I think it just speaks to the fact that, underneath the often very overheated claims, pardon the pun, about the climate and what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Young people claim they've got no future when that's almost certainly not going to be the case, however you read the data. It's driven by something else. Like there is this kind of desire on the one hand, a discomfort with sort of material abundance and developed society. They have this kind of very sort of chocolate box view of what it would be like to live a more natural, in line with nature kind of life, which I think is a lot easier to think that kind of thing when you do come from quite a well-off background. But the other thing is just the joylessness. Like they are slightly irritated by the notion that things in life can be a bit frivolous. That you might buy things you don't always need in that sense. You know, that people might take pleasure in the sort of simple things in life, and that they don't have to take everything so seriously all of the time. There's that kind of sackcloth and ashes sort of nature to environmentalism. It seems really wired in, really, and I think you're just seeing the most ridiculous, unintentionally absurd expression of it in people going around cutting down Christmas trees and thinking that's going to gain them any sort of popular support as a consequence.
Yeah, it's the class aspect that really gets me. Though. You do not hear working class voices on Just Stop Oil. What you hear very, very, very privileged people, deeply, deeply, deeply middle class people. There's a sort of bourgeois insecurity with the way, as you say, the built environment and the lived world is working out. And it's almost like the leisure classes have decided, as a class flex, to go out and lecture what they believe to be their social inferiors. I mean, they really are wagging the finger. They really are, we understand that, you're all going to die better than you do. It's extraordinary, and it's a sort of paradigm for our age, because you see this again and again and again. You see elite sort of projects speaking down to the great unwashed, and gender is another good example of that, where you've got a sort of elite class, particularly in the third sector, speaking down to people. So I regard this as a manifestation of sort of, bourgeois insecurity. Really, that's what it is, and it's a reassertion. It's an assertion of power over social inferiors.
No, I think that's right, and also it's not just an ad hominem to say this. I mean, it's like a measurable fact. Like there was a study that was done. I think it was the first round of Extinction Rebellion arrests, and so some academics looked at who was going through the system, and they kind of looked at what their demographic background was, what their educational background. They are overwhelmingly southern middle class, university educated. I think something like 80%. North of 80% of them have a degree. And what's interesting is that even in green politics as well, even the kind of old aristocracy is relatively well represented. I think one of the Extinction Rebellion co-founders is like the daughter of a baronet or something, or I should say the they-be of a baronet. I think she's non-binary incidentally, so it speaks to your point.
That makes perfect sense.
Speaks to your point about how all these things work. But no, I completely agree. If you are of a kind of either a sort of self-flagellating bourgeois type, or someone of a more sort of aristocratic background, you can understand why this movement would appeal to you, because you don't understand what actually material difficulty is like. You have no appreciation for how good things are when things are actually developed and you're living in a more plentiful society. But there is also, and I imagine this speaks more to the aristocratic side, the desire to go back to things maybe when people knew their place a bit more. That is a bit more ad hominem, but I dare say that plays a bit of a role in this.
I just think the other aspect of this, the one that does worry me, seriously speaking, particularly with young people caught up in this, is the degree to which they genuinely believe, there is no future for us on this planet. We are a sort of scourge on this planet. It would probably be better if we weren't here, and the planet is boiling. I think we had a sort of flavour of that when I was growing up in the 80s, but it wasn't anything like this. I mean, the worst of it was sort of acid rain and a hole in the ozone layer. It is now at the stage where some young people genuinely believe, we do not have a future, we're all going to boil. And that is, I think, firmly in the realms of doomsday stuff. The end of the world is nigh. And I do think that some of the messaging on this, as the catalyst of social media makes messages across all sorts of debates more and more and more extreme, I do think that it's actually a cruelty to visit that on young people, and for young people to believe that and to visit that hopelessness on young people. So I do wonder the degree to which these guys actually think about that, because I wish they would. It's not very nice. It's my view. Be more nice. Anyway, still, but it makes you proud to be British, though, to have such posh protesters, doesn't it? What other country has baronets and stuff? It's like Downton Abbey.